What is up, enthusiasts? It is Cedar Flags here, and welcome back to another one of my videos. So, a few years ago, I remember seeing footage of IAAPA back in 2015, seeing a brand new model known as the RMC TRex, and like many models, people hyped over it like crazy. People were talking about it up and down to be the future of roller coasters. But over 6 years later, and we still don't have any word. And then I thought to myself, this ride model has so much hype over it. In fact, over 6 years after it was announced, people are still talking about it. I'm talking about it right now. Every time RMC has some sort of teaser campaign, people point to the TRex model. So it begs me to ask, with all this hype that this coaster model has, why hasn't there been a model built yet? Today, I want to look at if it's ever going to happen, and if it did, where would it be? So without further ado, this is Cedar Flags, and today, I'm going to ask the question, will we see an RMC TRex anytime soon? So, for those who aren't too familiar with the ride model, let's give a little bit of an overview. In the early 2000s, a company by the name of Rocky Mountain Construction formed, but at the time, it was currently just a construction company. But in the late 2000s, they announced a model that would forever change the coaster industry. This was the iBox hybrid coaster that would convert older wooden coasters into new steel hybrid models. Rides like New Texas Giant, Iron Rattler, and Medusa Steel Coaster are notable examples of this model early on. And as the ride model and hype of the company were expanding, they were expanding with ideas themselves, and wanted to create something that we have barely seen before, and have not seen before with a thrilling model like this single rail coaster. In IAAPA of 2015, they came out with two ride models. One of them was the Raptor. This was supposed to be the smaller model, the track was a lot shorter, and the ride was only supposed to go up to a height of around 150-160 foot max. This was, like I said, smaller, cheap and compact, and it's supposed to cater to the smaller parks. The second model, though, was a lot more exciting. In excess of 200 feet, you could purchase an RMC TRex. The track and the carts were bigger, and the ride itself was supposed to be much, much larger. In fact, RMC has said in the past that this ride could go up to 500 feet with the technology they already have. And so, like I said, Raptors were meant for smaller parks, but in the late 2010s, we saw an interesting trend. Bigger parks like Six Flags Fiesta Texas, Six Flags Great Adventure, and California's Great America adding not T-Rexes, but Raptors. These are larger parks, so why would they buy the Raptors? Well, economically it's the better choice, and it has great capacity as well, and with the COVID pandemic, people still want to save some money, so in the future, will we see any of these rides? Well, I listed a few parks where I could definitely see a T-Rex in the future, so let's get into those. So, getting to the point of this video, do I personally think that there will be an RMC TRex coming soon? Though we don't have any implications in facts, I do have to say I really think that we will see an RMC TRex in the near future, at least by 2030. And why do I say that? Well, to put simply, the hype is still around, 6 years after they initially announced it. Where could we first see one of these TRex models? The hype is crazy, and I feel like there are some possible parks that could have the future location for an RMC TRex. The first one that instantly came to my mind was Busch Gardens Williamsburg. First off, they have a relationship with RMC. They have worked with Iron Gwazi at Busch Gardens Williamsburg's park, Busch Gardens Tampa, and they like to add similar coasters. Two RMCs would definitely work perfectly. Second off, they have filed recent permits in the past few months, and it's for a massive coaster, maybe even a hypercoaster. Third off, they definitely have the land for it. They have so much land going past the Rhine River, and especially where the former Dragonfire plot was. They could definitely add something great there, including an RMC TRex. The second park I could see is another SeaWorld park, and it is SeaWorld San Antonio and San Antonio, Texas. Now, this park is definitely one of the smaller SeaWorld parks, and that is the reason why I could see it expand. It is in a highly populated area, and I think they are expanding just as much, if not more, than the other parks. Let's see what they've added in the past few years. They have a new straddle coaster by Intamin, an S&S Scream and Swing, a GCI Woody, and most importantly and most recently, a launched log flume. So they are expanding like crazy and coming out with prototype models. So, could we see a T-Rex here? Well, a little thing that would deter it would be Six Flags Fiesta Texas. They are, after all, the main spot in the area for roller coasters. So, you could think of that one of two ways. One, they want to give the coaster spotlight to Fiesta Texas and focus on other things here, or they can make a coaster better than anything at Fiesta Texas and have a shining star there and have more people go to the park. Now the third park is not a SeaWorld park. It is Universal's upcoming new park, Epic Universe. Now, the sky's the limit for this park. They are very experimental with rides. Look at rides like Velocicoaster. This is an experimental ride. This isn't something you see in your normal everyday park. Now, Epic Universe is definitely coming out with some innovative attractions, maybe even some prototypes. So, is it entirely possible that we could see an RMC T-Rex located at the park? The only problem I see with this would be the height concerns. Now, there isn't really a height limit, but Universal really doesn't like to go over 200 feet, so could we see something like that? Or would they opt with the more reliable Raptor? Finally, the final park that I think is worth mentioning would be a park chain, specifically Fun Spot. Now, they definitely started off small with 2 parks in Orlando and Kissimmee respectively, but they are starting to expand. Look at a ride like Airy Force 1. That ride looks absolutely insane, and it shows that Fun Spot doesn't like to fool around. They definitely have some bigger plans up their sleeve, whether it be at that location or a location that they haven't used yet. So, to end off the video, I want to see some replies that I got from my fans. Now, a notable one is by Minnesota Thrills, and they said that they would like to see it at any of the Busch Gardens parks, and they said within the next 5 to 10 years. Now, like I said, I think SeaWorld and RMC are pretty close right now, even though the Iron Gwazi has had a few problems, but overall, I think that could definitely happen. And I think most of the comments would agree. Parks like the SeaWorld parks or Busch Gardens Williamsburg are in the spotlight here. Now, Amusement Park Life definitely had something interesting to say. They said not Cedar Point because they should probably redo Dragster before building anything else. A T-Rex at Kings Island would be great, but since they got Orion, they would see a giant coaster as unlikely. Now, Cedar Fair, I have to say, I would not really see that as a viable option. They haven't worked with RMC in a few years, and they weren't too surprised on how Steel Vengeance turned out. T-Rose Bunny Adventures had a very interesting point saying that it would be RMC Wildcat in the near future. Now, that would be a whole new ride model as itself, and that would be something extremely unique to see. Sector Reptile agrees with Minnesota Thrills, saying that either of the Busch Gardens parks would probably be great and within the next 5 years. An interesting one, again, was by Robbie Stapleton, and they said, in 3 years at Six Flags Magic Mountain. Now, I think this is very interesting because they just got a new coaster as a Raptor, so would they also get a T-Rex? Now, the final one I want to look at is by Arma70, and they said Wallaby Holland, since there's the rumors of them getting a single rail in 2024. Now, I haven't really touched on Europe in this video, but some parks I could see them getting an RMC T-Rex over there would be something like Energylandia, or any of the Walibi parks, especially Rhone Alps. But let me know what you think once again in the comments below. This is Cedar Flags, and I'll see you all later.